Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter, our first devotion for 2020. And today we're going to read Genesis chapter 1 through 3 and then also Matthew chapter 1. So we're going to see the beginning of the Old Testament and also the beginning of the New Testament in our reading today. And in our beginning of the Old Testament, we're going to see and be introduced to a God who brought everything into existence that we see. He created the heavens and the earth. He took the earth that was without form and was in darkness and was engulfed in water, and he takes that and forms it into something beautiful, brings light to it, brings separation between the waters, makes the sea, the land, the vegetation, the birds and the fish, and then also the beast, and then ultimately mankind. People who are created in his own image. But we also are going to see in our reading here the fall of mankind. Everything's wonderful, everything's beautiful after God created everything. And man's in the garden, he's enjoying fellowship with God, but they end up falling. They end up eating of a tree that God had told them not to eat of. And as a result, they now know the difference between good and evil, and they are now held responsible for their actions. And as such, they begin to incur upon themselves the condemnation of God. And this continues on through the story, or throughout the Old Testament. Time and time again, we see man falling short. We have some glimpses of righteous people who step on the stage, but even they have their faults and do things that are wrong. And it's not until we get to Matthew chapter 1, which is also in our reading, that we find God bringing a man into the world to fix the problem. This will be a man who would come into the world named Jesus Christ, who would, for the redemption of mankind, die on a cross for our sins. And this becomes the solution to the problem that we face as human beings. Now, yes, we are held responsible for our actions. Yes, we do know the difference between good and evil. But now when we fall, we have something to fall back on. We have the death of Jesus Christ. When we place our faith in him and we repent of the sins that we've done in the past, we're baptized in his name. Whenever we enter into this relationship with him, we have the promise that we are now God's covenantal people. We'll talk a little bit about covenant probably as we go through. But in connection to that, we have the forgiveness of sins. And so we're redeemed, we're brought back to that state that we had before the fall, before Adam and Eve ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And these things have been corrected. But we'll also see as we continue through the New Testament, the ultimate goal of God is to redeem all of creation and to bring it all into a pure, pristine state, to do away with death and dying and sorrow and sickness and everything that we see today. Ultimately, God is going to restore all that again, but it started with the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. And so let's kind of, as we do our reading and as we start this year with our reading, let's try to keep that ultimate goal in mind, what God was ultimately getting at, because it's really easy to get caught up in the details and to forget God's overall plan. But as we're doing our reading, let's always keep in mind the direction that we're going, what the scriptures are revealing to us in connection to the plan that God has, and how that is ultimately fulfilled. So that's all I have for you guys this morning. Thank you guys or this afternoon or evening, depending on when you're watching the video. Do appreciate you guys tuning in, and can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Love you guys. God bless.